All right. So now we're recording so we can post the lecture for the folks who aren't here today. Share the screen. All right, can y'all see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, 102 October, Rocktober. Getting on in October. Daddy, we did Inferno. All right. All right, so before we crank up with any good questions. Let's open the. Okay, so the story of Odysseus, his Latin name is Ulysses, goes back to ancient Greece. He's in the oldest stories we have, the Iliad and the Odyssey. The Odyssey is named for him, and it's his journey home. And the word Odyssey becomes associated with somebody on a quest to try to get somewhere. Anyway, in addition to, here we go. The Homeric view of Ulysses in the Odyssey, his qualities are good because they keep him alive. He's polytropos, which means many twists. And basically, his road twists and turns a lot, but so does he. And you find him lying all the time, which doesn't stand up so well over time. In the Roman hands of Virgil, in the Aeneid, he's a hero, but he's not a nice guy. He comes off looking rather bad. And so writing in Italy some centuries later, when he writes the Inferno, Dante also doesn't think a whole lot of Ulysses. So Dante is in the underworld, and there are different parts of hell. Some are worse, some are not so bad. Ulysses is in a terrible spot where the fire is always burning him forever, and he's stuck in this one flame with his bitter enemy, Ajax. And so they ask him his story, and it says in line 98 that he's self-destroyed. Now, normally, in Catholicism, killing yourself is a terrible sin, but this is not this is not a suicide on purpose. This is more of your Darwin Award situation where he tries to do something stupid and kills himself in the process. When there the flame had come where time and place seemed fitting to my guide, he thus began, and this is Aeneas speaking. He's giving Dante a tour of hell. O ye who dwell two spirits in one fire, if living I of you did merit aught, whate'er the measure were of that desert, when in the world my lofty strain I poured, move ye not on till one of you unfold in what clime death o'ertook him, self-destroyed. So he's saying, I wrote a great epic that included you guys in it. He didn't mention how negatively he portrayed him. You're still a hero. We've got the horse, the Trojan horse, in the Aeneid, and that's not in the Iliad or the Odyssey. So yeah. So go ahead and tell me your story as a return for a favor. Of the old flame forthwith the greater horn began to roll, murmuring as a fire that labors with the wind, and to and fro wagging the top as a tongue uttering sound throughout its voice. So he sounds like a fire crackling, but there are words in it. When I escaped from Circe, who beyond the circling year had held me near Caieta by her charms, ere thus Aeneas had named the shore, nor fondness of my son, nor reverence of my old father, nor return of love that should have crowned Penelope in joy, could overcome in me the zeal I had to explore the world. So, the first nor fondness, it really could be neither. This is a poetic thing. He needed one syllable for his translation instead of two, and so he put in nor. But that's also kind of the way Latin works. They don't have neither nor, they just have nor. Okay, so do we get... find a decent map of Odysseus' journey that we can blow up. Prezi, I don't think that'll work. Huh. Maybe. Here we go. All right, so Odysseus is originally from Ithaca, which is on the far side of Greece from Troy. So he goes with with the Greek army to Troy, spends 10 years there. And there's a lot of traveling. And based on the way that they describe the places he lands in the book, this is a map is a reconstruction of what Ithaca is. The rest of this is kind of mythological, so maybe there's a place, maybe not. But here's the island they identify with, Circe. And this is fairly early in the journey. It's about a year into it. They do this first traveling pretty quickly, maybe a year, and then another year on the island of Circe because, she's holding him by her charms. She's having the sex with him. He said, yeah, I could leave today, but, maybe have sex tonight and we'll leave tomorrow. Let's see. And then the rest of the journey takes place. But in this play, he's rewritten the journey to say that after this year on the island of Circe, we decided we were just going to travel around, screw going home. We want to do stuff. The zeal I had to explore the world and search the ways of life, man's evil and his virtue, forth I sailed into the deep illimitable main with but one bark and the small faithful band that yet cleaved to me. So he's on a bark, which is, I think that's Metimnany. Bark stands for a tree. A tree is what you use to make lumber, and a lumber is what you use to make a boat. Now, there are in the Americas these birch bark boats, but this is not that. This is one of those Greek boats that have the sails and the oars as well. So our map, unfortunately, leaves off a lot of stuff. Now, this is about 500 years later. So all the politics have changed. But he's on the island of Circe, and they're sailing around and around, and then they come. Morocco is in Spain. Iberia is Spain. So they come to Spain. He should be sailing from here this way to get back to his home or here, but instead he sails that way because he wants to see new stuff. And they come to Well, eventually. So they're old now. They've been sailing for years. And tardy with age were I and my companions when we came to the strait pass where Hercules ordained the boundaries not to be o'erstepped by man. The walls of Seville to my right I left, and on the other already Ceuta passed. So they are, if I can get this to work, here. Which is the little tiny opening between the Mediterranean Sea and the Atlantic Ocean. So every boat that wants to go from one place to the other goes through here. All right, so they come to the Pillars of Hercules, which is mythic naming. We call it today the Rock of Gibraltar. Rock of Gibraltar. Let's see if we can get any. And to the mind, especially of the medieval, I don't know that this was, well, I guess they had Gates of Hercules before. Pillars of Hercules. Plato placed the fictional island of Atlantis beyond the Pillars of Hercules. Renaissance tradition, I thought this sounded more medieval and maybe Renaissance, said the pillars bore the warning ne plus ultra, nothing further beyond. In other words, here be monsters when you go past the Rock of Gibraltar. Which brings us to the idea of the ecumene. Oh, here's a map. Which is the Greek word for the inhabited, i.e. civilized world, with, of course, where are the Greeks? Right here. So that's their map. And this is the area of the big wide world that God has placed humans. And this is a medieval thought. As a human, you are placed in the ecumene. To go beyond it is to go beyond the limit that God set for you. And here we come to the idea of the great chain of being. Which dominates medieval thinking. And it's the idea that everything from God to rocks is in a hierarchy, and that it's a divine order that is upset by anybody who disturbs the hierarchy. And there's still people that believe that. We've got a woman trying to become a Supreme Court justice who believes in that, and that women's role is subsidiary to man because, hey, it's right here in the great chain of being that the husband is superior to the wife, who's superior to the children, who's superior to the servants. Anytime you get out of your place on that great chain of being, you are destroying the cosmic order. A chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And so Odysseus, or Ulysses, comes to the Strait of Gibraltar, the Pillar of Hercules, says nothing beyond this. This is a limit that God has set, the real God, not these Greek gods, which it is not to be gone beyond. So this is the act of rebellion against his place in the world that destroys Ulysses. O brothers, I began, who to the west through perils without number now have reached to this short remaining watch, that yet our senses have to wake, refuse not proof of the unpeopled world. There are no people there because, people are in this circle. And so if you go there and there are people, well, they shouldn't be there anyway. Maybe we can wipe them out. Following the track of Phoebus. Okay, so Phoebus is a nickname for Apollo. And Apollo every day, among all of his other stuff, drives the sun from east to west, pulling it with his chariot. So we are going to follow the sinking sun to the west. Keep going, keep going. Oh, we're off the map. Oh, no. So we're going to leave the map and see what's out there. Following the sinking sun. Call to mind from whence we sprang. You are not formed to live the life of brutes, but virtue to pursue a knowledge high. This is his speech to his men. With these few words, I sharpened for the voyage the mind of my associates, that I then could scarcely have withheld them. To the dawn, which is the east, our poop we turn, and that's the back of the ship, because that's where you go to do that kind of business. You want that behind you as you move along. And for the witless flight made our oars wings, still gaining on the left. So we're moving to the left side of the map. Each star of the other pole night now beheld, and ours so low that from the ocean floor it rose not. So the constellations start to change around us as we follow the sun. And we sail for 5 days, 5 times re-illumined every time the sun comes up. And they reach a mountain dim, loftiest methought of all I e'er beheld. Joy ceased to strait, but soon to mourning changed. From the new, okay, so anyway, let's get into Dante's view of the world. So here is our basic globe. For Dante, hell begins in Jerusalem because there was this garbage dump named Gehenna, and Jesus talked about it being hell. So in his made-up universe, there's a hollow earth and an upside-down wedding cake. For each level, each ring of hell is lower and worse than the ones before, and higher and not so bad as the ones after. So we're about, probably 2/3 of the way down through hell at this point. In which case you ride the elevator up to, this is the Inferno. That's part 1 of his Divine Comedy. Part 2 is this mountain on the opposite side of the world from Jerusalem. A mountain that reaches all the way to the moon. It is Mount Purgatory. And it is where you go to have your sins purged. So it is a place of chastisement, but not the eternal, unrelenting suffering of hell. So things gradually get a little better as you go up higher until you get to the peak with the terrestrial paradise. But how do you get to this mountain? It is by the grace of God. And so trying to get there by your own power, without God's grace, without trusting in him, is blasphemous, and that's why he gets zapped down into hell. Now, it's important to know that the very first outermost layer of hell are the Elysian fields, where most of the Greek and Roman heroes are, like spending their day playing football and shit. It's like Valhalla, right? It's not heaven, but it's the nice part of hell. Odysseus has worked himself much lower because of his rebellion against the divine order. So we see this mountain, joy ceased to strait, but soon to mourning changed. From the new land a whirlwind sprung, and at her foremost side did strike the vessel. So undoubtedly God has some of those tiny helicopters that divert tornadoes around. If you listen to Alex Jones, but he believes in those tiny helicopters pushing the weather around. And so God can have a whirlwind go out and strike them. Then they swirled around and around in the wave 3 times. The 4th time, the back end of the poop came up, the prow went down, and down they went. And then he woke up in this horrible flame for all eternity. All right, so that is the source for today's poem. He rewrites the story of Odysseus. Later still, and this is not in, when was Dante? 1265. So when were the it says 13th, 14th century? Ugh. I don't know. Oh, 1320. Okay, so 1320. About 500 years later, this guy named Alfred Lord Tennyson takes this and rewrites it yet again. Oh, here's, well, I think we did this already. So in this version, it little profits that an idle king by this still hearth among these barren crags. It's iambic pentameter. There's no rhyme scheme. We call that blank verse. And blank verse is most famous for its extensive use by William Shakespeare. It's what he uses in most of his plays. Blank verse. And it's fitting because this is what is called a dramatic monologue. It is a monologue spoken by an individual within the situation of a larger play that we don't have. And it was a kind of a game that authors of the 19th century liked to play, where you figure out who is the speaker and who are they speaking to and what's the rest of the situation. And there are a ton of these from the 19th century. So in this one, he has it right up top. He doesn't want us guessing. It's Ulysses. It little profits that an idle king by this still hearth among these barren crags, matched with an aged wife, I meet and dole unequal laws into a savage race that hoard and sleep and feed and know not me. Okay, so let's puzzle this out, class. This is Ulysses. Where is he and who is he talking to? Where he is in the house, or the palace, if you will. Okay, so we have a location preposition that tells us when we are near something. What is that preposition? All right, somebody click in. Did they all leave? Am I talking to myself? How about you, Williams?
What line are we looking at?
Line 2, we have a prepositional phrase, a preposition that tells us location. What is that preposition that tells us where we are? There are two of them.
I'm not very good with grammar. I'm sorry, I'm thinking.
Prepositional phrases.
Oh, I don't
What was that?
Ella off. Are you gonna?
No, Gage.
Oh, okay. It's by and among.
Right. By
there,
this still Hearth, among these barren crags. You know, when's the last time you guys learned grammar? Because I'm starting to think I need to work some back into especially 101. It seems like they're leaving it out in high school more and more now.
Like 3rd grade was the last time I worked on grammar.
Oh my God. Yeah, I'm going to have to do something with my 101s. Maybe 102, maybe the same thing. I don't know. Because y'all haven't had it. We used to teach grammar in 101. That was our last grammar review. And they quit because y'all were getting it in high school. And high school quit because 12th grade because they were getting it 11th. And I don't know. Grammar can be fun. Anyway, what is a hearth?
A hearth, like on a fireplace?
Yes. So he is sitting by the fireplace. The fireplace is not have a fire in it. It's still. What time of day would you not have a fire in the fireplace?
A hot day.
Yes, but this
Noon.
is, what's that?
At noon.
Oh, no. I was about to say, they didn't have stoves. So the first thing you did when you got up in the morning was get the fire going so you could do the cooking for the day. So what's the only time of day the hearth would not have a fire in it?
At night?
Yes, it's late at night. He's woken up, wandered over to the fireplace. It's still the warmest place in the house. You know, got the coals there for the next morning's fire. You don't want to have to rebuild a fire. You just want to kindle it. So the fire is banked, but it's quiet. And he's not even speaking in very good grammar at this point, because he's kind of waking up. It little profits that an idle king by this still heart among these barren crags, matched with an aged wife. I spent 20 years trying to get home to Penelope, and oh my God, she got old. That's unforgivable, you know. But I mean, he's been home for a number of years now, so you know, this may be another 20 years later, 40 years since he left for the Trojan War. So he's not happy with his wife. He's not happy with his island. It's a bunch of barren crags. I meet and dole unequal laws, so I'm not happy with my legal system. They don't treat people fairly. But my people are a savage race that hoard and sleep and feed and know not me. When you've been off tour, when you've been involved in a great struggle, the only people that really understand are the people that were in it with you. And all of a sudden, he is waking up, making a decision, and his grammar snaps back into place. I cannot rest from travel. I will drink life to the lees. So, you know, boom, there's your English grammar coming back on as he wakes up. You know, I'm sitting around here moldering into my throne, waiting to die. I can't do that anymore. I need to, you know, I need to travel. Drink life to the lees. All times I have enjoyed greatly, have suffered greatly, both with those that loved me and alone. On shore, and when through scudding drifts the rainy Hyades vexed the dim sea. Isn't that great stuff? Even if you don't know what it means. So drinking life to the lees means all the way. I don't know what lees means. I never bothered to look it up. Dregs, sediment. Ah, yes, of course. So right after the Civil War, George Custer. He was a captain at the time. He and his wife went to Alexandria, and she talked about how horrible the water in the cisterns were at the end of the summer and at the end of a dry spell. And you had to set your pitcher out, and then all this stuff was settling out, like the silt, but also there were tadpoles swimming around in the water. It was not good water. So he's even drinking that stuff, the stuff at the bottom that you don't want to drink. All times have enjoyed greatly, have suffered greatly. So some of it was great. Like when I was having sex with Circe for a year, some of it was horrible. I was with the people that loved me. Sometimes I was alone on shore. And when through scudding drifts the rainy Hyades vexed at the dim sea. So there's a constellation. Is it a constellation or is it a weather pattern? A group of stars that are in the sky during the rainy season. And so there have been good times, there have been bad times, times on shore, times in the water, but at least I was alive, right? It was an adventure and it woke me up. I am become a name for always running with a hungry heart. Much have I known, seen and known, cities of men and manners, councils, climates, governments, myself not least, but honored of them all. So when Ulysses shows up, there's a party. And drunk delight of battle with my peers far on the ringing plains of windy Troy. So when you're in war, it's horrible. It only starts to seem great 40, 50 years later when you look back on it. And the fact is, whatever you're doing now, you remember the good old days of COVID? Man, those were the days. And why is that? You're young. You can climb stairs without getting too out of breath. You have hair. You're not old and bald and fat, such as myself. And there is a remote possibility that you might actually have the sex while you're out there. So you got all that stuff going for you, right? And that was Ulysses. Oh man, 40 years ago, awesome, fighting on the ringing plains of windy Troy. Well, when he was there, it was miserable. I am a part of all that I have met. That's a pretty common, proverb. Yet all experience is an arch where through gleams that untraveled world whose margin fades forever and forever when I move. Okay, so here is Ulysses. Experience is the arch of the present. So wherever I am, there I am. So here I am in Ruston. I've got this arch over me. If I look up, the arch is over Ruston. Kind of, I'm under the top of the rainbow, as it were. But out here at the margin, as I move forward, this margin moves forward too. We call that the horizon. He doesn't use that word, but he's talking about the horizon, and his mind is never on where he is. It's always on the horizon. Any of you like that? You're always 15 minutes ahead, or 20 minutes, or in this case, an hour and 5 minutes, where you're thinking, okay, I got to sit through this class, or maybe I won't, maybe I'll just record it, watch the recording later. But after class, then we'll go eat. And when you're eating, you're thinking about, well, where can we go out tonight? Where are the kids having one of their COVID parties? I want to get in on that. And then you're at the COVID party with the kids, and everybody's jumping around and drinking and doing what you do at COVID parties. But you're not thinking about the COVID party. You're thinking about, who can I get to take me home? Who here at this party is going to take me home with them? And then, wow, fortune smiles, and you get lucky, and somebody takes you home with them, and you're able to do everything you wanted to do today. It's just great. And you're lying there in bed afterward. You're not enjoying lying in bed. You're thinking, how the hell do I get out of here now? Do I go out the door? Do I take the window? Do I say I'm going for coffee and not come back? So that's Ulysses. His eye is always on the horizon, the next thing. What's the next thing? How dull it is to pause. And so at the end of all this adventure, all this traveling, I came home, I'm sitting around, I'm not doing anything. To make an end, to rust and burnish, not to shine in use. So probably he's at the fireplace. There's a very good chance that his armor from the Trojan War is there. And what's happening to it? It's getting rusty. What's happening to him? He is getting rusty. He can shine it up, but he wants it to shine in use because he's been using it. As though to breathe were life. So is your sole goal in life simply to breathe? He says, life piled on life were all too little. And of one to me, little remains. So I've got this very limited amount of time on this earth. And if I really take care of myself, eat yogurt and skip the fried chicken and lose 20 pounds and start working out. Oh man. So I might could live for 3 more years. But every hour is saved from that eternal silence, something more, a bringer of new things, and vile it were for some 3 suns to store and hoard myself. So 3 suns usually would in poetry mean 3 days, but in this context, it means 3 years, 3 cycles around the sun, we would say today. The precession of the sun. I could stay alive for 3 years maybe if I hoard myself. And this gray spirit yearning and desire to follow knowledge like a sinking star beyond the utmost bound of human thought. So once again, as in Dante, I want to sail west toward that sinking star, following knowledge. Okay, so here he is talking for the first 32 lines. By his fireplace, it's gone out. And I believe that he's talking to himself. He can't tell Penelope he's matched with an aged wife. Certainly, you wouldn't want to tell any of your advisors this stuff. You can't be that honest with them. So he's being honest with himself. Now we change audiences. This is something most dramatic monologues don't do, but there's a space here. A new paragraph. This is my son, mine own Telemachus, to whom I leave the scepter and the isle. Well loved of me, discerning to fulfill this labor, by slow prudence to make mild a rugged people, and through soft degrees subdue them to the useful and the good. So, who is his audience now? This is my son, mine own Telemachus. He's got Telemachus there, but he's introducing Telemachus to the people. He's got the people out there gathered. It's a combination. He's abdicating the throne. That's what Bonnie Prince Charles of England has been waiting for 70 years for his mother to say. I mean, you learned that in our vocabulary lessons. Abdication, mother. Read up on it. And we would call it an inauguration, coronation, probably better for Telemachus. So I'm leaving the scepter, I'm leaving the isle. The savage race of my ramblings has become a rugged people. So we talked about the difference between connotation and denotation. The denotation is the same. They're rough guys, right? They're rough folks. But what would you rather be, a rugged people or a savage race? I think we'd all rather be a rugged people, like the Marlboro Man, right? And his laws are going to be better. Soft degrees subdue them to the useful and the good. Most blameless is he, centered in the sphere of common duties, decent not to fail in offices of tenderness. and pay meet adoration to my household gods when I am gone. He works his work, I mine. So Telemachus is a homebody. He never really had, well, he went away for maybe a month once upon a time. But otherwise, he likes Ithaca, and he's cut out for this. And if I hold on to the throne, I'm just standing in his way. Everybody's ready for a new king, right? When he came back, the island was descending into chaos. Everything was in an uproar, topsy-turvy. Think America 2020. And you needed somebody that would come and restore order. But now order is restored, and he's just sitting on the throne. He doesn't have any real vision for what to do with the island. Just kind of played out, and he thinks it's Telemachus' turn. All right, paragraph 3, we have one more new audience. There lies the port, the vessel puffs her sail, there gloom the dark, broad seas. My mariners' souls that have toiled and wrought and thought with me, that ever with a frolic welcome took the thunder and the sunshine and opposed free hearts, free foreheads. You and I are old. So he's talking to you. If you look back up, I guess if it's been since 3rd grade since y'all studied prepositional phrases, apposition might be too much to hope for. It's called apposition, where you talk to mariners and then say you. Those are the same thing. So these are his sailors. He's called the old gang back together. Part of what he was complaining about on the throne is his loneliness. He's lonely. He's tired of being by himself without anybody that really knows him. So he gets the gang back together, the people that know him. You and I are old. Old age hath yet his honor and his toil. Death closes all, but something ere the end, some work of noble note, may yet be done, not unbecoming men that strove with gods. So, yeah, I'm walking, doing my daily walk. I call it a jog, but I don't think any sane person would. And I look over, and there are these 5 guys at Hillcrest playing basketball. And I'm thinking, well, that's not even. Maybe I should go over there and offer to enjoy. I'm like, oh my God, it's like 50 years too late. I cannot do that. My knees would not do that. I can't jump. I can't anything. I would just slow. It'd be better with me not there. The only thing I can do well in basketball anymore is block. Just sit up there and, use my bulk. So, right, you and I are old. We can't do the stuff we used to do. But there's stuff we can do, not unbecoming men that strove with gods. The lights begin to twinkle from the rocks. So the long day wanes, the slow moon climbs, the deep moans round with many voices. So the lights are the starlight. It's twilight. Kind of an unusual time to sit still, I guess, based on tide, you might have to. But also this is symbolic. Because his long day is waning. The human life is often called a day. I mentioned that before when we talked about the sun. And as the long day wanes, he's getting old, he's about to die. So this is a farewell tour. He's not coming back. He wants to die with his boots on. He doesn't want to die sitting in a chair on Ithaca. He wants to be out at sea again. Come, my friends, 'tis not too late to seek a new world. Now, one thing that Tennyson knows that Dante does not is that there is a new world out there. He's living in the 19th century. So, the United States is around. Most of, the countries we know in the Western Hemisphere are there by this time. And they filled in that map. So he's having his Ulysses seek a newer world. The part, ironically, I think part of what made Columbus think they could go east was Dante, you know, kind of strange, but yeah, he kind of trusted maybe there's something that way. Push off and sitting well in order, smite the sounding furrows. So furrows usually refers to the land after it's been tilled. It's got little hills and valleys in it that you can plant in. But here the furrows are the furrows of the sea. And they're smiting it with their oars. So time to row. For my purpose holds to sail beyond the sunset, like in Dante, and the baths of all the western stars until I die. Now, what could happen? It may be the gulfs will wash us down, so it may happen exactly the way it happened in Dante. But it's different because this is before and not after. And the point is the journey, not the destination. It may be we shall touch the happy hours and see the great Achilles, whom we knew. So we don't know what will happen. The point is we'll be doing something. You gotta be doing something. You can't just sit around. Though much is taken, much abides, and though we are not now that strength which in old days moved earth and heaven, that which we are, we are. One equal temper of heroic hearts made weak by time and fate, but strong in will to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. So we will never give up. We will never surrender. We may die, but we won't stop until then. So there's the poem. Now, if you want to write about it, you can compare Dante's version with Tennyson's version. In Dante's version, remember, this was a great sin, a horrible thing to leave the great chain of being, to get out of your place. But Tennyson is writing after the Renaissance. This is the Victorian era. And the sun literally is never setting on the British Empire. Let's see if that works. So I think the British Empire is at this point the greatest empire in the history of the world. Going all the way from north to south, from east to west, it said the sun never sets on the British Empire because somewhere, wherever the sun is, it's shining down on part of the British Empire. So it circles the globe. It's the first, well, I'd guess Spain did before. Well, see, we don't even have China on the map. We've got India, Australia, much of Africa, still have Canada, the 13 colonies at one time. So there's stuff even left off of this map. So how do you get an empire like this? You gotta get off the island. As long as you're staying on the island contented and happy and just everything's hunky-dory, you don't get an empire. So all of a sudden, instead of ambition being a terrible thing, it's a necessary thing. It's a necessary part of capitalism, which is developed. It's a necessary part of empire. You've got to have young men with a lot of ambition who go out and try to push those limits and bring stuff home. And that's what his friend Henry Hallam had been doing when he died, I think overseas. Let's see, where's our note? Author Hallam, author Henry Hallam. Oy. Why don't this get smaller? Doesn't say where he died. Vienna. So not exactly the frontier. This is the heart of the Holy Roman Empire, but still, he's away from home, and so Ulysses. Tennyson puts it in this context. So, what is a terrible sin for one generation becomes a necessary virtue for the success of our whole empire. The empire we're trying to to create. So you can write about that, how the itch to travel has been transformed in the time between Dante and Tennyson. What does travel mean to Dante, and what does it mean to Tennyson? So that's a comparison and contrast. You can talk about tone and audience. Now be careful you don't just retell you have to analyze the tone. How does the way he's talking in paragraph 1 indicate that he's talking to himself? How does the way he's talking in paragraph 2? It's not just, it's kind of the language. The language has shifted. This is my son, mine own Telemachus, to whom I leave the scepter and the isles. So mine own Telemachus. This is not normal language. This is formal rhetoric. And then the mariners are the easy one, because he says, you and I are old. But what's he saying to them to motivate them to go with him on this one-way mission? You're not coming back, dudes. Any questions about the poem? And of course, you can come up with your own thing. Like you could talk about the balance between safety and adventure. Like, we all have to find that balance, right? I mean, really right now, just going to a regular event, you could catch COVID and die. But how many of us can sit in our home all the time and just be super duper safe? It drives me nuts. I try to be careful going out, but I do go out. I am Ulysses, always roaming with a hungry heart and usually a hungry stomach. I pick up a lot of food. All right, any questions? Any questions about anything? So you guys are good for now? Well, let's stop sharing, stop recording, and I'll get y'all in your groups. How do I stop recording? Is that it?